Hey there people of the internet, Ezio here with another replay analysis. This time we're going to be analyzing a replay of a recent viewer of my past YouTube videos, Mark. He's currently a Plat 3 player and asked me to go over the mistakes he's making. So let's do it. I'll be going through certain situations where you could have done better in cuts this video to hopefully save some time on your part. Please let me know if you prefer this kind of video. Alright, so starting off here, we can see that you're going on this kickoff very off center here. This is never good for kickoffs because Rocket League is a physics-based game. The ball will always go where there is least resistance, so it will always end up on your side of the field if your opponent is properly centered when hitting the ball on kickoff. So ideally, you want your card to be around here-ish on the kickoff, while your opponent is probably going to meet you center, and the ball is going to go in whatever direction. If you're usually as centered, you will apply more force to the ball, and that will mean that the ball will more likely go into his side of the field. Now another thing with a proper run-up on kickoff is the chance of scoring if your opponent does not go for the ball, which is the case here. If you were to go up for this kickoff properly, you could be scoring your first goal in the first 5 seconds of that game. So try to really focus on your kickoff in your next game. It will really pay off big time. Alright, so coming up in this section is a very chaotic play from you and your team, which is to be expected at Platinum, but you can try to get some order into your rotations, especially in solo queue. It's important that you make sure you make it as clear as possible when you're rotating out so your teammates don't get as confused and start thinking you might turn in again. This will make sure your rotations will be as smooth as possible and ensure dangerous pressure. Let's watch it. And after, I'll draw out how you should be rotating instead. Okay, I'm now going to show you how you should be pretty much rotating to avoid confusion all the time. I like to call it off-field rotation. What it essentially is that you're always trying to rotate away from the side the ball is on and not against your teammates coming in. So what this essentially looks like is you're going to go up for this ball and you're going to land right here. What your first thought should be is, how am I going to get back to the net to avoid going into my teammates? And this is how you do it. You don't go right here because your teammate is going to move up here. He's gonna try to defend here, and you're gonna be in his way, you're gonna confuse him here in about this area. And to avoid this, just rotate back here. Make space for your following up teammates. Just make sure you're not in their way. Yeah, just don't be a nuisance for them. Don't be in their way. You want to make their approach as clean as possible. Alright, I hope I got my point across with this little drawing I made. I know it wasn't the best, but I hope it made sense. We'll probably have a situation later on where I can show it better, but I wanted to point it out just to make sure I got the basic idea of off-field rotation across. Alright, let's move on. Because we will have a small mistake coming out right here for 30. Right here. So you have two options here. Your teammate just got you in a really bad spot. You're sitting in that, and your opponent is about to take a shot. What you're doing is, you're gonna jump up for this ball because you assume it's in, and you're gonna miss it completely, and they score on you. Let's go back. You have two options here. Let's go over both of them. You either show tremendous mechanical skill and you assume he's going to shoot higher, which is not really that common in Platinum level. That's why I'm gonna tell you to choose the other option later on. So you could read this bounce before, you could read this ball before it bounces or after it bounces, which is quite difficult. You see it in champ level, but yeah, that's not really useful for your platinum game. But the other option you have is wait for this ball and realize it's not in. Really make sure you look at the trajectory of the ball, make sure it's crossbar, and then check with your ball cam. Do I have time to take this after the bounce? Can I push up here and take it from the bounce? It's gonna bounce around here, I think. And you actually had that time in that situation. Let's watch. If you check right here, you actually had that little bit of space you could have used to 50-50 right at that moment. If you realized that was gonna go crossbar, you could have set up right at this position and gotten a 50-50 on him and avoided the goal entirely. Alright, so coming right up is actually, I don't know what was going on in game, but I assume there was no quick chat whatsoever, because you're going to commit on this kickoff together, which is never really a good idea. I don't know how often you use quick chat, but try to at least implement it into your kickoff game. The amount of times I see people double commit on kickoff only to leave their third man in a 3-on-1 situation after they got beat is amazing. So always make sure to communicate. You're not doing your teammate, your third in the back, any favors by just committing completely and sending 2 people to the kickoff. Just use I got it, take a shot. It doesn't matter, it doesn't take that much time, and it saves a lot of chaos. In this situation nothing happened, I believe, but yeah, you both get taken out of the game. Or your third gets taken out of the game, but they can't score, luckily. But yeah, you get my point. Moving on. Alright, so here's another example of a bad 50-50. You're essentially flipping away from the ball here and are not really applying any force to the ball at all. Try to hit the ball centered to where your opponent will hit it to. And choose your flip wisely for the situation at hand. Let me show you again. So here I would just use the diagonal flip to the right in this situation. Maybe you just messed up with your controls, but if you diagonally forward flip to the right here, you could have gotten a way crazier challenge here, and you wouldn't have given a position like that away. Alright, so coming right after this is a really wide rotation from you. You just screw it up a little bit, and that caused your opponents to counter attack you, pretty much. Eardrum is taking this ball down the field right now, and what you're doing is you take a really wide rotation, get the big boost pad, even though your team is pressured really hard, and yeah, all of you are not in a really good position to take this ball. You're all rotating back. Let me go and show you. Wait. You're all pretty much rotating back. You have an open net right now. And yeah, nobody's back. This is not the situation where you want to go for the big boost pad. You want to get back as quick as possible. If your teammates get beaten here, you will have no chance in hell you'll get back here. So now I'm going to show you a proper path you should take instead of going for the big boost pads. That's better, and it might have not made a difference, but it's better to get that habit of doing that. Instead of driving right here and taking that big boost pad right here, try to take the little shorter route and go either here over all these small boost pads right here, all these ones, or turn here in the ideal scenario. I didn't draw it right, but you get my point. Around here-ish, and you'll be at the back post rotation, which is probably the best spot you can be. I'll go over it in a second. But what this does is it essentially fuels you up with boost. All these boost pads right here, each of them gives you 12 boost. So we'll have 48 boost at this point. This is more than plenty to go up to the ceiling. if you're comfortable with your car later on. But you want to get that habit right away. Most people only learn this lesson in the chapter levels, but it's good if you have it in your repertoire, right? Okay, so in this situation coming up, you risk a goal by committing to a ball you really shouldn't commit to. In this situation, you are the third man right now. I don't know if you'll realize, but you'll see it right here. That moment when your teammate misses that ball is the moment you should realize you're the third man Mac and Pizza is the challenger right now. As the third man, it's your job to make sure your net is safe. So you want to make sure you turn around here immediately and let Pizza push in for that ball, and you just make sure the net is safe. Also, you're going at an angle to this ball that is really unprofitable. You can't really score this before Eardrum gets it, and you're way too far away to get it. So there's no reason for you to go for this ball. Alright guys, so now we're at bird's eye view of this entire situation, just so I can get my point across a little bit. I drew the two halves of the field in order to show you what offense is really about. And I also drew the proper positions or the proper rotation in right now. Mitch being the first challenger that just committed, Pizza being the support, and you being the third man that's supposed to be securing the back of your net. So after Mitch committed, he's going to rotate out, or he should be rotating out right here around ish. And after you saw how that 50-50 turned out, you're going to turn back here as well and try to support Pizza, who's going to push up for this ball right now. So in this situation, your team actually has a left side to play. So this is your first position. Pizza is in your second position as support, and you're supposed to be the third. If the ball crosses the midline, it is actually your ball to take. That's at least the rule of thumb I go by. When you're third man and you're around the middle-ish, and the ball is not going to cross the midline, it's the ball of the guy on the left. That makes sense. So if the ball does not cross the midline, this is really crucial as a rule of thumb, you should let your third, in that case then, being Pizza, who's prepared for the defensive measures of your opponent, take it and rotate behind him or set up for another pass if you trust your teammate. That way you will always have a good angle on the ball when you're actually going to commit. But yeah, I hope I got the point across in this situation, because you all took yourself out of the game and Eardrum got an easy offense on you in that situation. Which brings us to the next point, which I mentioned earlier. Right here, we have a good example of bad off-field rotation. After your original bad rotation that I just mentioned, you get this demo while rotating back, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But this is, now we're exactly in the situation that I wanted to tell you about, which is you being on the opposite side of the ball and your opponents. It just makes the rotation a little bit more confusing, and you want to avoid that at all costs. You do pretty well by just going away from the ball here, but yeah, I just tried to get that point across. Because after rotating back right here, you actually end up bumping into Mitch because you don't look out for him. So always look out for your teammates in the area and try to keep a mental note where they're at the current time. Alright, so coming up here, you actually see your teammate Pizza having complete possession of the ball. And so this is a big mistake I even see champ players doing regularly. And that is not looking at the cars surrounding the ball, but simply just looking at the ball. I feel like you literally were just looking at the ball there and just trying to get it off Pizza, and because he flipped into it, you got a little bit overwhelmed by the movement of the ball and couldn't hit it. So always look at your teammate's ball, the teammate next to the ball instead of the ball only, to see where the ball could be going, what your teammate has in mind as a next move, because he is in quite a stressful situation right now, being pressured by Santa Snow and Dennis. So he will have to make a move, and you have to adjust to that. That's part of being a better team player. This also applies to your opponents, by the way. Try to get a feeling of what your opponent's options are when they have the ball under control and act accordingly to it. Alright, jumping to 225 here. Here's another example of confusing rotation you do. So coming right up is you challenging the ball. And I don't like how you turn out here. Instead of what you're doing, which is rotating against pizza, pretty much, try to actually turn to the left here, towards the middle, like we talked earlier, and try to avoid him at all costs. Try to make sure he knows you're out there, you're out of there, he can move in, without risking a double commit. It doesn't happen in this point, but that's simply because, yeah, people don't care that much, let's be honest, in that rank. But it will happen more and more, because in the higher champ ranks, you will always have that one guy who thinks he can hit it again off the wall and turn in again. So try to get these habits early on and you'll be flying through those ranks. Alright, next up, coming up right here, is just a big mechanical miss, which is just easily fixed by training. Free play, a lot of free play and striker training. But yeah, just keep practicing a little bit every time before you start playing multiplayer matches and in between your matches. And you should get those in no time. Here's another look at it, but yeah, this should be a goal right here. But it's all just practice. Just keep practicing every single time before you play, or in between matches helps a lot as well. Or set like a little time before every single time you play. Like if you're gonna go queue ranked, just do 5 minutes of free play every time before you do that. That's one match you're missing out on, but a lot of mechanical improvement over time. Coming right up here as well is just a small mistake, because it wouldn't make a difference in this play, but it would definitely make a difference if you apply this in future situations. What do we see? Let's go back a little bit. So your third just got beaten to the ball here and actually got them out. You do have one man back, which is Mitch, but your opponent has plenty of space to work with. So this is not the time to go for the big boost pads, and instead take the few side pads on the side here. I'll draw them up. Use those side boosts as mentioned earlier and try to get back as soon as possible. If you always analyze situations like this, you will see that you will be scored on quite a bit less. But yeah, remember, boost is useless after a goal is scored. I know it's mesmerizing, but try to resist it. So what's coming up here is a good bit of offense by you. A good little touch there. And a really good offensive rotation cut here. So what this essentially does is it makes it possible for your teammate to keep possession, simply because Mitch is not in a position to hit this, because he's too far back. So it's a really good idea to challenge that ball. But I don't like how far you move back here. You give the opponents so much space to work with if they actually manage to beat your teammates. This does work in platinum lobbies, but if you were in a champ lobby, Santa could be supporting this ball a little better. Now keep in mind, these are all just things you might want to get the habit of to do right now, so it will be just natural later on, you know. At the end, I'm just trying to help you improve in the long run. That's all I'm trying to do. But yeah, against champ players, you never want to give them that space, because they will set up a play against you by setting up a passing play or starting a dribble, whatever. A good champ player wouldn't clear it away like that. But overall, your positioning isn't absolutely terrible. It's actually quite good, but there's just a chance you leave that small opening that could lead to a very, very dangerous attack. That's all I'm trying to say. So here, you find yourself in a position where you're too far back to take that ball. And you need to learn to realize that. Turn defensively and prepare for Santa's no kills hit. Right there, you just find yourself completely overwhelmed by his hit. And as that happens, let me draw that out for you. Right here is where you should be turning around-ish. And you should be heading towards your backboard. You know, just trying to set up on that backboard. And trying to defend that hit better. Because right now it's really awkward. You're making it really difficult. And yeah, you actually just end up panicking and passing them again. Which is not good. Coming up right here is the next mistake. The same mistake right here. As soon as you see eardrum with boost on that wall before you, it's time to turn. That's where you should be turning. I mean, ideally, you should be turning over this boost here and going up the wall if you can. And try to do whatever you can to stop it. If you can't stop it, it's okay because of mechanical issues, but it's still better than going for this challenge here up the wall and getting completely beaten like you did right here. Let's watch. So you get completely beaten here. You're out of the game for good for a while. And they could have scored here. So yeah, just try to keep in mind that it's always better to not take yourself out of the play if it's pretty easy to see you're going to get beaten because the opponent is simply closer than you. Alright, moving on. Here we just have another crucial miss which requires training of your mechanics. For lower ranked players, I still recommend the default aerial training pack provided by Psionics. They're great if you're not used to aerialing high yet. But yeah, missing this should really never happen in the higher ranks. So try the all-star packs. Move on to custom packs once you're comfortable with the default packs. Your missed touch could have resulted in another goal for the opponent. If Dennis managed to hit that ball. But he didn't. He got beat. But yeah, just try to remember, training is key in Rocket League. It takes like a bazillion failures till you learn a new mechanic, so keep your heads up. Alright, so we're getting close to the end of the replay now, and there's one big mistake coming up that I see people even in champ ranks do again. And that is turning off ball cam when there's really no need to. Watch this little clip here. Let's watch first and then talk over it. It might be that nothing happened here, where there's actually a lot of things that could have gone wrong here, and you just completely miss it. At this moment, like, look what you're doing here. You're turning on ball cam, but you actually turn it off here multiple times. Off and on, off and on. I'm not really sure if you can tell what's even happening behind you, but you don't know what exactly is going to turn out with Mitch going up for this ball. You don't know what the result of this 50-50 will be. And while you're having the ball cam turned off and are simply going for the boost, Mitch might be beaten. Mitch might be losing that 50-50, and you will be completely surprised and out of position when that happens. Luckily he gets it, but what if he didn't get it? What if that 50-50 went against you? You might be completely out of position simply because you were literally blind to what's going on because you were looking at boost. So it's really important to keep your ball cam on as much as possible, even when going for boost. My tip for going for boost is actually lining up your car with the boost before switching it off and just going to that direction. Like, line it out right here and then keep your ball cam on the entire time and see what's going on. Then turn if it's really needed. So yeah, that's a really crucial tip, and if you actually manage to change that, I can assure you that your amount of goals scored against you will tremendously decrease 100%, because you will always be able, you will also be able to set up for plays if you see your teammate moving up for ball in the higher ranks later on. As you move up in the ranks, you will need to set up for passes, and this having ball cam on is a really crucial part of that. Alright guys, that concludes this replay analysis. I really hope you enjoyed, and I really hope all of you, including Mark, can get some value out of it. Please leave feedback in the comments on what I can improve on in my analysis, and like or dislike the video so I can make these videos better and better in the future. Commenting and liking actually pushes the video in the YouTube algorithm, which means more people can get value from it. Please consider subscribing me and follow me on my social media to keep in touch with me and my YouTube content. And my streams on Twitch actually. I'll link all of those things down below in the description, so feel free to contact me if you would like me to go over one of your replays. I'm currently looking for Diamond or Champ 1 gameplay, since I'm still looking to make one of those a replay analysis for that rank range. Having said that, I want to thank you for watching this video this far, and I hope you have a nice day. See you guys.